Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the 2020 preseason testing ahead of the 2020 season. And this time we are here at Sakir for the first time. I am JW97. It was originally meant to be Miranefci, who was supposed to be the main commentator, but unfortunately, he has been caught up with a lot of schoolwork that he needs to catch up with. So, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to do the commentary today. Maybe he will for tomorrow, I'm not sure. But you've got me again for another day, but for today, I'm not joined by Dennis like yesterday. I am joined instead by a member of the Gamba Mafia. His name is Franco Gamba. How are you doing?
Hi everyone. So yeah, it's the Gamba Mafia boss here, and I'm doing alright. How about you guys? I'm doing alright.
Doing very well indeed, and I'm doing very well myself as well. Well, you can just see the weather on your screen, and no real surprise, it is a dry day here in Sakir. To the shock of everyone, I guess. So, yeah, obviously, the last 2 days they were topped by the two Mercedeses, both topping a day each. Amar Carr topping day 1, and Franco Lopez topping day 2, with Franco Lopez being the quickest overall out of the 2 days. And obviously, some surprises came the way in the form of Racing Point, who were able to get in front of both Red Bulls yesterday. Whether they'll be able to keep that up here in Sakir is another question. But I think without further ado, let's get into it. So, obviously, you're in the Red Bull, of course, Franco. Was you surprised to see 2 Racing Points in front of Red Bull in yesterday's test?
I think it's definitely a big surprise to see Racing Point this fast. It was expected to see them a bit further in the front, but not that further. So they are pretty much the surprising of Barcelona tests. And probably in a track like this, they are gonna be even more surprising because it's a track that works a lot for their type of car. So I think that they're gonna be very strong these 2 days here in Bahrain as well.
Yep, indeed. As we now get out onto the racetrack, and the first car coming out onto the track will be Roland Motrin in the Racing Point, followed by a Renault and then an Alfa Romeo. Then, so obviously Roland Motrin, who has shown some really good pace in the Racing Point so far in this test, and obviously he wants to put the disappointment of what happened at the back end of the season of 2019 behind him, and hope to have a better year in 2020. And given the pace that the Racing Point has shown, it looks like they're going to have a lot of potential going into the season. Maybe Roland's best chance to possibly have maybe his best season in the OC.
I really think so. Also, last season, Roland was very close to a podium in Russia, and then we know what happened with Gabriel. But overall, 2019 for Racing Point was pretty disappointing, but their drivers actually performed pretty well with the car they actually had, which was probably a bit worse than it actually was shown by the results of both drivers. And I think that this season, with both drivers having the car there to do some good results, I think this season they are going to surprise us pretty well. Maybe especially maybe George. I see George that it was pretty fast these 2 days, and also obviously Roland, but maybe a little bit more George. Maybe it like in 2018 it was with a hat, so George maybe can bounce back like that, like it was that season.
Indeed, and obviously George, as you mentioned, they're showing some very good pace indeed. For a lot of these guys, though, this is possibly their last chance to try and get into day 4. Now, already 4 of the teams have already had their battles done and dusted. I will quickly get up the score sheet that has been left on. In fact, it's on Twitter as well, isn't it? Is the score sheet. So let me just quickly have a look as we ride on board, as we're now with Roland Motrin, who's just started his first lap. We were looking at Amelia Wilson just a little bit earlier on, but now we have, what was I going to say? Now we have Roland Motrin reviewing on the track as he approaches in towards turn 4. And
Oh,
okay. Well, we'll keep trying anyway if we can't. But it looks like the thing with the Renault looks to be unfixable. It seems, because you may have noticed it had a white cockpit for a while, and it looks like we've not been able to find a fix for that. So it looks like that might be there for the entirety of the season, and we might have to change model for next season when we're in the fantasy era. Then again, most of these might be different next season, given that we're in the fantasy era. We'll have to wait and see, of course. So anyway, we're looking at Roland Motrin now. I'm going to bring up the score sheet whilst we were doing this. So the current scores look like this. It's currently 1 apiece between the 2 Mercedes drivers, 1 apiece between the Ferrari drivers. Franco Gamba won his battle against Miklos Gal, which means that Lorenzo Tomaselli will be replacing Gal on day 4. It's all tied apiece for McLaren. It's tied for Alfa Romeo. Kupok won his battle against Chris Chatfield, which means that Ruslan Proxy will take Chatfield's place on day 4. It's 1-1 for the Renaults, 1-1 for the Racing Points. 2-0 was Fraser. He won his battle against Kirby, so that means Jared Fosby will replace Kirby on day 4. It's all tied apiece for Williams, and then, of course, Rosetta Martinez won his battle against Amelia Wilson, which means Maxim Titkov will be replacing Amelia Wilson. Amelia Wilson has also had a 3-letter prefix fixed as well, I believe, because she wasn't fond of WIS as a prefix. She's actually got WSN as a 3-letter prefix instead. But so far, some lap times coming on already. Motrin so far setting the benchmark with a 1 minute 29.739, and that's that. So as we now make our way towards the left-hander now then, as so far he's still currently top possession as more lap times start to come in. Kirby getting in front of Fraser at the moment. Lopez only 7th. It looks like there may be some traffic early on in these first couple of laps at this point in time, but we'll have to wait and see on that. George Roque currently in third position, so far 1-3 for the 2 Racing Points at this point in time, as Chatfield, Griffiths and Sontag do their lap times. Maybe Chatfield got involved in a bit of traffic there. There is the new 3-letter prefix for Amelia Wilson, WSN. Franco Gamba, meanwhile, gets up into 2nd place, but 6 thousandths off of Roland Motrin. And the last person to cross the line has just done it. That was Martinez. He's gone up into 20th position. So the first laps have been put on the board. So obviously, as mentioned, for 7 of the teams, this is their last chance to try and win their battle in order for them to still be in day 4, because tomorrow, of course, we will have the test drivers in each of these teams, and I read them out yesterday, so if you didn't watch yesterday's preseason test, you can go and do so maybe after this. And also, don't forget, if you've missed out on a drive in any of the 5 tiers, make sure you try and sign up for the entrance series. We did get a couple of more sign-ups yesterday after a bit more promotional work, so maybe we should keep doing that until we get a significant number. So that is now up towards turn 4 then, goes Roland Motrin. And so far, still currently at the top of the timing sheets at this point in time, as David Kupop makes his way back into the pits. Roque, meanwhile, improves, but remains in 4th position, just in front of Miklos Gal. Meantime, for Derry up in 11th place in the Alfa Romeo. Now, the tyres you would have noticed, no, that is not a glitch from Yuri. It's once again the medium tyres. It seemed that the random tyre generator decided to pick mediums again for the Sakhir runs of testing. So all 4 days you will see the yellow medium wall tyres. Meantime, Roberto Gamba only up to 15th at the moment in the Ferrari, whereas his teammate Laura Chung is up in 7th. So clearly Roberto's still needing to get used to it. So I might as well ask you this, Franco, because you're obviously a relative of Roberto's. Was you surprised to see Roberto back in the top class this season?
I was pretty much surprised about the fact that he's back. I thought that he would have had difficult times in DTM, but the luck decided to bring him back to F1 this season, and also with Ferrari. But it seems that Ferrari this season is struggling a lot. It's pretty clear. As we can see also the results of Laura and of Roberto, they are bottom top 10. Now P15 for Roberto, maybe he can improve, but I think that actually it's going to be a very difficult season for him and Laura. But who knows? Maybe they can put they can overperform actually the car pretty well. Let's see if they are able even to score podiums. Who knows? But yeah, I say to him that you're a lucky bastard. You're a lucky bastard. even more than me when I got promoted to Red Bull in 2019. You're a lucky bastard, I say to him. And And
well, he was in contention for 2 seats, you may remember. He was in contention, speaking of which, of the car that we're looking at the moment. He actually put that as his number 1 choice, but in the end, he ended up being at Ferrari because, of course, they ended up retaining the man that we're actually looking at the moment, David Kupark, who probably felt a sigh of relief that he got retained for 2020, and he'll be looking to put the disappointment of 2019 behind him. We're running on board with Joseph Willows, probably for a lot of people still getting used to the fact that he's not in the Scarlet Red Ferrari anymore, and he's wearing papaya blue instead. So I should say papaya and blue, not papaya blue. That just sounds like one colour meshed together. So that's that really. But it seemed like at that point there, Willows down in 14th. It looked like from what we've seen, and yes, that does confirm it. He is being hounded by the Renault of Evan Byrne at the moment. I wonder if these two will be battling quite a lot in 2020, especially given that they both have Renault engines, and it looks like Byrne might try and get past Willows on the straight because he's remaining side by side with him at this point in time, but who knows really. As we look at Gabriel Gomez, who probably himself is very lucky to still be in the top class, and probably a sigh of relief for him, along with Andrea Vaderi as well. They are still in the top class, because it was a bit of a shaky season for the Alfa Romeo pairing, but they did manage to get retained. But so far in testing, it seems that the team have appeared to struggle, Franco.
Yeah, I see that it doesn't seem that the pace isn't there. It seems last season it was more consistent, and this season is going to be probably an even more difficult one. But maybe they can even do great performance with a car like this. When with a good one, actually, they made some mistakes, and I think it's going to be a good battle in the back end of the grid, from maybe P15 to P22, where the gap is probably a lot. There was actually this difference between the 7th and 8th team. And 8th to 11th team are pretty close, so I think that is going to be a pretty close battle in the back end of the grid. So maybe both Gabriel and Andrea can bring some good performances in those conditions as well.
And yeah, exactly right. I was just looking at the chat there, just reading some things in there. So, Rowan Moulton back out onto the racetrack. Now, one of the things that I didn't mention yesterday whilst I was talking about, because I had to cover a lot of things, I didn't mention the calendar for the top class, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that the calendar has had is completely different to what it was in real life. Thank you, COVID. That's that really. So it is going to be completely different to what it was in real life when COVID decided to interfere. On top of that as well, and I'm not counting the years that we've had some tweaks in there because they're not fully changes, so to speak. So the calendar for 2020. Now, of course, it's the season that never was, because we're trying to go with the calendar that was originally meant to be there, but with some tweaks for obvious reasons, of course. We've got 21 races instead of 22 because, of course, as you remember, the Canadian Grand Prix was removed due to problems with its pit lane, and so that's why we're down to 21 races. It never got replaced, so there we are, really. 21 races, Yuri deeming is enough. And also we had to replace one race because of the fact that one track has not been made for Grand Prix 4, and I pretty much doubt it will, to be honest, but we'll get on to that. So round 1, of course, will once again take place at the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne before we head off to, well, basically here, really, where we are today. Sakhir for the Bahrain Grand Prix. That will be round 2 of the championship. Round 3 will be in Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix. Then round 4 will be the first of 2 new venues for the top class, and it will be at Zandvoort for the Dutch Grand Prix. Now, there was obviously some doubt before the season began about that track due to the first pit box being a bit glitchy, but thanks to a fix that Flo was able to do, the Dutch Grand Prix will still go ahead. I will say, though, judging from some testing that I saw on the off-season with it, I will warn some guys that the pit lane may appear a bit weird during the race, but trust me, it is bearable. It's not. We'll see what I mean when we get there, basically. So That's that really. So the round 4 will be the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort. Then round 5 is the second of 2 new venues, the Portuguese Grand Prix in Portimao, the only track from the rescheduled calendar that is actually making an appearance on the 2020 OC calendar. Now that's the replacement for the Vietnamese Grand Prix due to Hanoi not being available on Grand Prix 4, and I highly doubt it will, to be honest, given that it looks like Real Life is not going to race there either due to some dodgy doings with its owners. Meantime, Miklos Gau goes to the top of the timing sheets by 500ths of a second. He gets onto a 1 minute 29.687.
Problems.
We've got some problems here. Loose wheel for Felix Sonntag. So problems here for the Williams driver. He has got a mechanical failure. It looks like he's pulling off at the exit of turn 4. So Sonntag currently is in 21st position, so not really a good start for him, and he spins it around just to show his frustration that the car's broken down. But he should be able to run back to the pits to get the spare car, but the first mechanical problem here in Sakhir, Franco.
Oh, yeah. Bahrain is pretty demanding in terms of mechanical failures and reliability, so it's pretty easy to have some issues, especially there. Brakes are pretty hot, track is hot, so the tires also have a lot of degradation. So for both drivers, mechanics, and everyone there, it's a very tough race. And luckily, it is only testing for them, and it isn't actually a race. So better happen this now than in the race itself. So they're going to probably find the issue, and they are going to making him better car for the next future, maybe.
We will see, of course. He had the problem, as you just saw there, just coming out the exit of turn 1, so just as he passed the pit lane, really. A bit unlucky for him there. Chatfield, meanwhile, gets up into 15th. As meantime, Jake Galloway gets up into 7th place in the Renault, getting behind Kirishima De Rosa, as we ride on board with Laura Chung in the Ferrari, currently lying in 8th position. But as I was saying, with the calendar, round 5 is the Portuguese Grand Prix in Portimao. That is obviously the replacement for the Vietnamese Grand Prix, because, of course, Hanoi is not on Grand Prix 4, and it looks like it won't be. Ever, to be honest, because it doesn't like Real Life is going there for some reasons that we won't go into. Let's put it that way. Now, obviously, Portugal has been put to round 5 instead of round 3 for the OC because you wanted an Iberian doubleheader with Portimao and Barcelona. Speaking of which, round 6 will be the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, and then we will have the traditional 2-week break for Christmas and New Year. So Spain will be the last race of 2021, and then we will come back on the 5th of January for the Monaco Grand Prix in Monte Carlo before we have another week break for the annual Indy 500, and then we come back a week later for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku on the 19th of January. Then, not the Canadian Grand Prix because that race has been taken off. It will be the French Grand Prix in Le Castellet for round 9. Round 10 will be the Austrian Grand Prix in Spielberg, and by that time, that's when the 2021 silly season should be open. Round 11 will be the British Grand Prix at Silverstone before we head off to the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest for round 12. Sadly, no German Grand Prix for this season, but it might make a return in the fantasy era. We'll have to wait and see, of course. Round 13, the Belgian Grand Prix in Spa-Francorchamps before heading off to Monza for the Italian Grand Prix, and then not the Singapore Grand Prix, just like last season, it will be the Korean Grand Prix in Yeohognan because, of course, Marina Bay is too glitchy for Grand Prix 4. Then we move over to Sochi for the Russian Grand Prix, which will be round 16. Round 17, the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka before heading off to Austin for the United States Grand Prix, USA and Mexico switching back to its original places. Then round 19 will be the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the running of the Mexico City Grand Prix, not the Mexican Grand Prix, because 2020 was meant to be when that Grand Prix name made its debut. So not the Mexican Grand Prix, it will be the Mexico City Grand Prix for 2020, but who knows, the Mexican Grand Prix name could come back for the fantasy era. We'll have to wait and see. It all depends really on if Yuri keeps the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, of course. Round 20 will be the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at the Yas Marina circuit, and then the finale, as per usual, will be the Brazilian Grand Prix in Sao Paulo, because of course Sao Paulo having the rights to always be the last race, although this season will be the last time.
I have a quick announcement. The Mexico City Grand Prix will be renamed to the Mexican GP this season. That's it.
Why?
Because I want to.
Whatever. Anyway, we look at Chris Chatfield now then, who comes out of the second to last corner. He'll now make his way down towards the final corner. Now then, and the Brazilian Grand Prix in Sao Paulo will play host to the finale, but of course it will be the last time it will have the bragging rights for it to be the finale, of course. Doesn't mean it will be the last time it will host the final race, but it just means that other tracks will have the opportunity to host the finale. But we'll see, of course, what will happen. But that is the 21 race calendar. Meantime, whilst we were talking there, Joseph Willows, he's finally been able to get a clean lap, has got up into 6th position to get behind George Roque. And it seems, judging from today, it seems the McLarens have turned it up a notch, unlike what we saw in Barcelona.
I think that it is a track that is more suitable for McLaren. Maybe Barcelona isn't the ideal track to see the full potential of the McLaren in general, and in a track which requires a lot of aerodynamic here, McLaren in the race weekend itself is going probably to surprise us and to be in front like there was in the majority of 2019. I think this season for McLaren is going to be very, very difficult to confirm themselves as a fourth force of the championship. It's going to be a very close battle, probably with for sure Racing Point and maybe Ferrari and Renault. And I would put as a possible outsider the AlphaTauri team. So it's going to be pretty tough for them. And yeah, as you mentioned a lot of times, in 2021, who knows that they can bounce back to the top of the grid like they was 10 seasons ago or so. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what will happen.
Just to clarify there, people in the chat, what Yuri said there was a joke, by the way. He wasn't being serious about that. But he has said to me just now in the Discord that if the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez stays on the calendar for next season, then it will revert back to the Mexican Grand Prix name. So I thought I would point that out before anybody thought he was being serious there. But anyway, Jamie Griffiths goes up into 17th position. And whilst we were talking there, Motrin's still up in 2nd place at the moment. But as you said there, yeah, the McLarens definitely looking like they are starting to turn it up a little bit because they didn't really show their full potential in Catalonia, but it seems they've turned it up here in Sakira. And I must say, George, that is a weird-looking 7 that I saw there from you earlier on. Meantime, Franco Lopez gets up into 9th position. So far, not having the best of days is Franco Lopez, the defending world champion, who is, of course, looking to become only the 2nd driver in OC history to become back-to-back champion. The first one, of course, yep, you would have guessed it, it's Florian Volker, of course, because it's always him. So the last double world back-to-back champion being Florian Volker, of course, and the only one, of course. Lopez looking to do the same if he can, as Wilson went a little bit wide, I think, there. In fact, I think there was a bit of a lock-up there. I think it was either Wilson or Roque there, not 100% sure who it was, but anyway, that is that, really. I lost my train of thought.
I realized that he's an Hungarian one, too. It's pretty rare to see.
And given that a percentage of our viewers are actually from Hungary, I think they'll be pretty happy to see that at the moment. But whether it will last for the entirety of the session, it is another question. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Lopez, of course, looking to become only the 2nd back-to-back champion and also be the 4th multiple-time champion in the top class as well, joining Joseph Willows, Florian Volker, and Jay McKenzie, if he can as well. Of course, it is going to be a bit weird, as some people alluded to, because you haven't really mentioned him too much in this testing session. It's weird not seeing Jay McKenzie in the top class grid, because like with Joseph Willows, he was one of the few left who has competed in every race. Well, now Joseph Willows is the only person left on the grid who has competed in every race. I think it's fair to say, Franco, I think you'll probably agree, it is going to be weird not seeing McKenzie on the grid this season.
Absolutely. Also, the first time that a world champion is not going to be retained in the top class. So it's pretty sad how last 2 seasons were downhill for Jay's career. So also Renault wasn't actually a car that gave him a good car. We saw it last season. And also 2 seasons ago, but especially last season, in which when he was in a decent position, he always got a problem, and his performances weren't that bad all the time. So it was pretty disappointing to see him left without a seat, and now the season is in DTM, so it's going to be weird to have only one Polish driver there, that is Kiro Di Rosa. Sadly, it is a bit of bad luck, but I think he will bounce back to return maybe in the top class in 2021, and who knows, he can return to be on top positions with the fantasy era if we make it back to F1. Let's see.
Let's see, indeed. Hopefully we do see Jay back in the top class very soon, because there were a lot of people who thought he was actually going to retire after it was revealed that he wasn't going to get a seat in the top class, but he put those rumours to bed by saying that he was going to compete in another tier. So it seems that Jay still has aspirations to still be in the top class in the future. Whether we will see him again in the future, we will have to wait and see, of course. But hopefully we do, of course, because he is obviously a former world champion. It would be nice to see him back. Meantime, speaking of former world champions, we're looking at Joseph Willows now, who's come out of the pits. Currently in 6th position, a much better session for him at the moment. Of course, a new challenge for Joseph, as I've alluded to yesterday, because he's hoping that McLaren turn their fortunes around in the fantasy era. He has, as I mentioned yesterday, putting his 100% winning record on the line here by being here at McLaren. But who knows, really, as we saw with the Racing Points, and given that what we saw in real life, if it's anything to go by, maybe he could grab a lucky victory here and there. Who knows, really? Maybe, given that Monaco is usually a good track for the midfield to really shine through, as we saw with Kirishima De Rosa back in 2018. Who knows, really? But we'll have to wait and see. Let's not get ahead of ourselves too much in the future as we ride on board with him with his hybrid helmet, as I would like to call it, of course, a cross between his 2006 and 2007 helmet. And as he makes his way through into the second to last corner. So far, as we now look at his former teammate, Laura Chung, there's a big lockup going into the first corner there, so not getting the lap off to the best of starts there is Laura Chung, currently lying just on the cusp of the top 10 at the moment. The Ferrari's not appearing to do as well as what they did the other day. Apologies if you can hear my dog in the background, as Motrin goes back to the top of the timing sheet. Motrin goes back to the top by a tenth ahead of Michael Oscar. He's on a 1 minute 29.576. So once again showing that Racing Point ain't no pushover.
Are we sure that these Racing Points are legal?
Well, Yuri did say at the end of 2019 that they did acquire a photocopier, so it seems to be working for them so far.
For me, it's a disqualification then, but yeah.
Well, this
but
is the OC,
we are in GP4, so
not really that much of a problem. So anyway, we're now looking at Dudu Kirby, who makes his debut this season with Haas, currently finding himself in front of teammate Daniel Fraser, which he wasn't able to do in the last 2 days in Barcelona, which is why he will not make an appearance on day 4. Instead, Jared Fosbury will be in the Haas in place of Dudu Kirby tomorrow, as going through the left-hander goes Dudu Kirby, and heading down the straight then goes Dudu Kirby, as he will now make his way towards the left-hander. It is Will Stevens' helmet on with just over, I believe that says 21 minutes to go on the screen. It does. So coming around the left and then through the flat-out right-hander. The stream appears to be fine for me, Felix. No lag experience here.
Yeah,
I'm not seeing any buffering on our end, JP and Felix. It might be your internet playing up. So Motrin making his way down the straight now then, as we now look at Evan Byrne, who's come out of the pits. Trying to figure out what the texture is that it's missing. It's clearly something, it's the surroundings of the cockpit, isn't it? A bit strange that one has gone on walkabouts, but I guess we have to get used to it, I guess, as we ride on board with Evan Byrne, who remains with the team for a 4th successive season, and he's looking to maybe do something similar to what Joseph Willows is doing, and maybe try and turn Renault's fortunes around when the fantasy era comes about. And we believe that is a similar aim that Felix Sontag is aiming for with the Williams. If only he put Ferrari as his first choice. As he now goes around the double left-hander now then, with just over 20 minutes to go. He'll be soon preparing for his next flying lap. So far, it is Roland Motrin at the top with Mikolas Gal in 2nd, Franco Gamba 3rd, Amar Carr in 4th position with George Rote 5th, Joseph Willows in 6th with Jake Galloway in 7th, Franco Lopez in 8th, followed by Kirishima De Rosa, who we're viewing now in 9th, Laura Chung in 10th. Then it is Evan Byrne in 11th, David Cupot 12th, Andrea Videri in 13th, with Gabriel Gomez 14th, Roberto Gamba in 15th, Chris Chatfield in 16th, Jamie Griffiths 17th, Dudu Kirby in 18th, with Daniel Fraser in 19th, Felix Sontag 20th, Emilia Wilson in 21st, and Rosetta Martinez currently in 22nd and last, exactly 2.2 seconds behind the current top man, Roland Motrin. As now we look at Amar Carr, who got held up on that lap there by... I believe that was Kirishima De Rosa, but he's now got some clear track in front of him. So let's see if he can try and improve as he goes through the first sector. Down on his personal best. Still 3/10 off of Motrin in the first sector there as he makes his way towards the hairpin. In the car in through the right-hander he goes. As we now look at Emilia Wilson, who makes her way through turns 2 and 3 now then, currently ahead of Rosetta Martinez. Obviously wasn't able to do that in Barcelona, hence why we won't be seeing Emilia in the car on day 4. Instead, we'll be seeing Maxim Titkov in the car tomorrow. Coming out of turn 4, there goes Wilson as Manor prepare for what will be their final season in the top class, of course, hence why they've got the livery which says thank you for the memories and one last hurrah on their livery. So obviously later on down the line it will be revealed when the 11th team will get announced. Probably more likely it will happen in the new year when it will get revealed, not this year, so be aware of that. As Rosetta Martinez makes his way through the S's now then.
Chatfield improved 12.
Left-hander, as you just mentioned there, Chatfield gets up into 12th ahead of Cupot, which he's not been able to do these past 2 days. Cupot's been able to get the measure of Chatfield so far in these testing sessions, but it seems that so far he's returned the favour as Roberto Gama comes out on the track, still wearing the black helmet. I was expecting him to revert back to his original helmet for day 3, but clearly still wearing the tribute helmet for one more day, because I know that you've got a little bit of a tribute on your helmet as well, Franco, given the tragedy that happened in your family recently.
Yeah, sadly it wasn't these wasn't easy times, especially for me, because Roberto actually knows my grandma a bit of times, for the fact that we aren't direct cousins, but secondary cousins, so he knows my grandma not very well, so but in form of respect, I didn't even know that he actually asked for the black helmet. He didn't tell me that, but anyway, I respect that he actually has decided as well to do this as a form of respect. But when these things like this happens, it's not easy, but we move on, and let's see.
Condolences to your family, indeed, Franco.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the action. As whilst we were talking there about the tragedy that was happened in your family, I should say, using present tense rather than past tense there for some reason. Evan Byrne managed to get up into 7th position, getting in front of his teammate Jake Galloway. Now, those two are currently one apiece so far in the teammate battle to determine who's going to be in the car on day 4. And so far as it stands, it will be Evan Byrne, and we might as well update at the moment who will be in the car of each day as it stands. So at the moment, we will have Roland Motrin in the car on day 4 at the moment as it stands. If it remains like this, of course. So far in the Mercedes battle, it looks like it will be Amar Carr that's going to be in the car on day 4. No pun intended there, of course. For McLaren, it looks like Willows will be there on day 4, as he's currently ahead of Kirishima De Rosa, currently up in 6th. Byrne at the moment will be in the Renault for day 4. What else? So far in the Ferrari battle, it looks like Laura Chung will be in the Ferrari tomorrow instead of Roberto Gamba. And we already know who's going to be in the Alpha Tauri because that got determined yesterday. For the Alfa Romeo battle, it looks like Andrea Videri will be in the car tomorrow if it stays as it is at this point in time. And in terms of the Williams battle, at the moment it looks like Jamie Griffiths is going to be in the car tomorrow, and that's it. I think I think I've already covered the 7. So that's how it looks so far. But we've still got under 16 minutes to go. Anything can still happen.
I think that the guy we are seeing on board is going probably to improve a lot soon.
Time. Speaking of improvements, you've just done that yourself because you go to the top of the timing sheets by 15 thousandths of a second ahead of Roland Motrin. So Franco Gama now goes to the top with a 1 minute 29.552. and makes it a 1-3 at the moment for Red Bulls. Meantime, speaking of Gambas, your cousin has also improved. Roberto Gamba goes up into 7th position, getting in front of Laura Chung, so that changes things at the moment for the Ferrari perspective as he gets up into 7th place, getting behind the man that he's replacing at Ferrari, Joseph Willows. Meantime, we look at Amelia Wilson, who's currently holding up one of the racing points, and that looks like Roland Motrin. That looks like that's the Zolt Baumgartner helmet that Roland Motrin uses. So Motrin is being held up at the moment by Amelia Wilson, and he's actually coming back into the pits this lap. So him overtaking Amelia will not make a blind bit of difference at all. But there we are. As Amelia Wilson, speaking of which, is now going to cross the line. And let's see where Amelia's going to place herself. She does not improve, obviously, because of the hold up that happened. And how ironic, George Roke is being held up by the other Manor. So the racing points and the Manor's not getting on so far in this day, as Roke and Martinez get very close to contact in the last corner there. Roke's still having trouble trying to pass Martinez there. Both of them running the Mercedes engine, of course, so the same amount of power they'll be carrying down the straight. As Laura Chung gets out onto the track, probably realising just how much her new teammate improved there.
Yeah, I think that Manor and Racing Point are going to have a war like it was between Force India and Ferrari in the Australian Grand Prix of 2014. Don't know if people remember that race when I think the old Force India and Ferrari team actually crashed together. I don't know how many times. It was like 5 or 6 times. So who knows that it could happen the same between these two teams.
Who knows, really? And given that Australia is the first race on the calendar,
oh yeah,
what could happen? Meanwhile, your cousin has further improved, but he remains in 7th position. Now finds himself 12 thousandths behind Joseph Willows at this point in time. So if he can keep this up, he might get himself in front of Willows. We'll have to wait and see. We now look at Felix Sontag.
I would actually make an investigation on his car. It's not possible that he's that fast.
Well, we did kind of think that Chung was in the 2019 Ferrari on day one before everybody else started to improve.
Yeah.
So.
Or maybe it's the Gamba Mafia power.
Who knows, really? Well, so far it's not really worked on Videri, has it? The other member. So, meantime, another improvement. Franco Lopez has got up into 5th position, getting himself behind his teammate Amar Carr, only separated now by 7 thousandths of a second. And so, at the moment, unless things improve towards the end, we may have 3 different drivers topping a session. We obviously had Amar Carr topping day 1, Franco Lopez day 2, and at the moment, Franco Gamba is topping day 3. It could be 3 different drivers if it stays as it is at this point in time.
Yeah, I think that also the top 3 teams, which are Red Bull, Racing Point, and Mercedes, actually have a bit of gap to the rest of the group. If we can see, Roke is 6 with 2 tenths of a gap behind Gamba's fastest time, and Willows then is 6, 3 tenths slower than Roke, and then the rest of the group. So it seems that these 3 teams at the top have a bit more pace compared to the rest of the group so far. I mean, in this track. So let's see if in Australia it will be the same or something could change. Meanwhile, Wilson was improving, but she doesn't improve. Joy, are you here?
Yeah, I'm back. I just had to go and deal with something. As meantime, Laura Chung there just having a lock up on the exit of turn 2 there. So again, it seems that she's struggling a little bit with the brakes on that Ferrari.
Maybe even the tire temperatures. So that makes the car more undrivable.
Indeed. Hello, Rob and Jake, who have just joined in the stream chat. How are you doing? Just over 11 minutes to go in this session as we ride on board with Laura Chung, who's already had a lap compromise from the mistake that she made down at turn 2. So this lap has already gone into the bin for her. Down in 12th position, not really ideal for her or even Ferrari at the moment, given how much the team is so far struggling so far in testing. And it looks like it's going to be a tricky year in the office for the Tifosi. especially when they will be having a special livery at Monza, which will be the Burgundy livery, as we revealed yesterday, that they'll be running at Monza. So,
I
not
think
really.
The Tifosi will throw the grenade that Evan actually proposed in the discussion stream. Throw a grenade to every car every 5 laps to make things exciting. I think the Tifosi are going to do the same if the Ferrari isn't fast enough at Monza.
For a moment there, I thought we were going to witness a Manor overtaking a McLaren there, but Kirishima De Rosa saying no to that at all. So Martinez is going to have to hold back as a result. Clearly, De Rosa didn't want to get embarrassed on the TV there. So we move. So as we now look at Amar Carr, who's just come out onto the racetrack, currently in 4th position, and as you can see, with the helmet that he had in 2018 back on, because he feels that it could be a good omen for him if he has that helmet. And well, it has to be said that so far it seems to be going all right for him. So who knows if that's going to be an omen for the season, whether Carr can put the disappointment of last season behind him and actually compete for the title in 2020. That will be something of note. We ride on board with Felix Sontag. It looks like he may be getting overtaken soon by a Ferrari who's on the inside. Not sure which Ferrari is trying to pass him there, as they remain side by side coming out of the last corner, as Mikel Ascal comes out of the track just in front of his teammate Franco Gamba, I believe, and I don't think he's holding up Gamba. No, he's not, so lucky for them. Otherwise, I think there would have been words in the Red Bull camp about that one, but so far, those two are appearing not to hold each other up at this point in time, as Mikel Ascal makes his way through the S's, as he'll be looking to see if he can try and make it a Red Bull 1-2 with the amount of minutes left on the clock, as we ride on board with Rosetta Martinez, the 2018 DTM champion, and in his second season now in the top class. And of course, it will be his final year at Manor, of course, because of course Manor are pulling out at the end of the season. We now look at Daniel Fraser making his debut in the top class for Haas. Of course, Haas reverting back to their original colours after their fallout with CrossFit Jesus himself, William Story. So, back to the original colours for Haas, as Daniel Fraser makes his way through the S's. But so far in testing, obviously so far Kirby's got the measure of Fraser around this track, but in the first 2 days, Fraser looking like he had some very encouraging pace in that Haas, Franco.
Yeah, I saw that the last 2 days Fraser was a bit faster compared to Kirby. To be honest, Kirby was struggling a little bit in Barcelona. Yesterday was even behind the Manners, also the rest of the group. But today it seems that he has recovered that bit of pace. But obviously the car isn't probably that helpful to show his real pace. But being 18th is something else, and also is ahead of Fraser. So at least it's something else, and a sign of encouragement for him, maybe for the first round, for the fact that tomorrow he's not going to drive with Fosbury replacing him.
Yeah, indeed. Meanwhile, whilst we were talking there, Evan Byrne managed to improve to get up into 8th position, only 1,000th ahead of Roberto Gamba that time by, and 11,000ths behind Jose Willows, so getting in between that very small gap. As we now look at Rosetta Martinez, who makes his way down towards the hairpin, down on his personal best in the first sector. And unless he can find some miracle in the second sector, it looks like he might not be able to improve on this lap. The only person so far who's over 2 seconds behind the man currently at the top, which is Franco Gamba, as his teammate Emilio Wilson is under 2 seconds behind Franco Gamba at the moment in testing, with just under 7 minutes to go, as they make their way down the support pit straight through the left-hander. We go now then, as Martinez will make his way through the long sweeping right-hander. As Gal does improve, but remains in 3rd position, only 400ths behind Franco Gamba. The top 3 separated by 400ths of a second, so very close between the top 3 at this point in testing, as George Rote comes back out onto the track to see if he can improve on his 6th position, coming out of turn 4, as will soon making his way into the S's, flicking it in through the right and left-hander, the number 99 Racing Point, and George looking to hopefully have a very good season. And given the pace that the Racing Point has shown so far, who knows, maybe try and get his first win since 2012. We'll have to wait and see on that. Martinez coming out of turn 1 now, then flicking it in through turns 2 and 3. With just under 6 minutes to go, and so far not holding up Roberto Gamba behind, as Martinez makes his way into turn 4, flicking the car out of the corner now, then before heading towards the left and right-hander, flicking the car in to the right and then into the left, and now making his way down towards the hairpin. Out of the turn he goes now, then using all the curb on the exit there before heading down towards the double left-hander on the racetrack. And now heading his way down the support pitch area. A bit of a gap between himself and that McLaren in front of Kirishima De Rosa. And then he's got 2 cars in his mirror chasing him down, Roberto Gamba and one of the Renaults. Not sure which Renault that is that's chasing them down, but it's a Renault. That's all we need to know. So just over 5 minutes to go in this session. And so far, it looks like as Galloway meanwhile improves, they go to do a time that's exactly the same as George Roque.
Whoa.
So Roque and Galloway with the same time there. But of course, Roque is going to be in 6th position because, of course, he set the time first before Jake Galloway. But very interesting indeed that exactly nothing separates George Roque and Jake Galloway, although we do know that George Roque is currently out there on the track and maybe looking to improve if he can. Maybe even get back in front of Franco Lopez if he can. Martinez doesn't improve as Roberto Gamba tries to find his way through on the inside, but clearly not able to. Clearly at a power disadvantage between the Mercedes in the back of the Manor and the Ferrari engine in the back of, well, the Ferrari, of course. So as we now look at Felix Sontag, who makes his way back onto the racetrack, flicking it in through turns 2 and 3, as he will now go up towards the right-hander.
Now,
and
heading to turn 4.
Apparently some drama at Williams as drivers failed to recognise each other at the motorhome. I guess Felix wasn't aware that that was Joseph Frederic Souto, the Williams test driver, who was talking there. Of course, we'll be seeing Joseph Frederic Souto tomorrow in the Williams, and at the moment it looks like he's going to be the one that's replacing Felix Sontag, ironically, unless Sontag is able to improve and get himself in front of Jamie Griffiths, as Roberto has been able to finally get past the man, and now it's Evan Burns' turn to try and get by on Martinez in these remaining few minutes. As through the flat-out right-hander goes Byrne, as here is Joseph Willows looking like he's going to do maybe one more flying lap, maybe 2 at a push. It all depends really on how much time he's got left when he crosses the line, but he's coming back out onto the track to see if he can improve on that 8th position and try and narrow the gap between himself and Galloway, which is nearly 4 tenths between each other, looking to see if he can try and reduce that gap.
I think he can do 2 laps, so because he comes when it's going to be probably 2 minutes, and another lap, 30 seconds. He can do 2 laps, I think.
Unable to get by there on Martinez, losing the draggy setup that Renault has to good effect down the straight, which counteracts the lack of power it has compared to the Mercedes engine. As Martinez makes his way towards turn 4, and it's like he's just going to be getting some mileage in for the Manor team, who are looking to try and be in that fight with Williams, Haas, and from the looks of it, judging from the testing times, maybe even Alfa Romeo as well. So maybe a close fight at the back of the field, as opposed to also the midfield, and maybe even the top as well with Red Bull and Mercedes. And who knows, maybe Racing Point may be in there as well. But I'm not totally convinced by that. Maybe they're probably just going to be in the higher end of the midfield. We'll have to wait and see. Although the pace looks encouraging for Racing Point, I'm still not putting any bets that Racing Point are going to be fighting with Mercedes and Red Bull this season. But you never know. Stranger things have happened in the OC, of course. But we will see.
Maybe the Lotus of 2013 this season, when Lotus wasn't the best team, but always close for battling for the podiums or the wins. But not always. So it can happen maybe again with the Racing Point.
Yeah, who knows really, as we are now approaching the final few minutes of qualifying, as we will look to see who's going to be the last to cross the line very, very soon, as some cars come back into the pits to finish off their day, and that will be their session done and dusted with. Here is Gabriel Gomez. As Sontag does improve but remains in 19th, still not able to overhaul teammate Jamie Griffiths in order for him to get into day 4 tomorrow. Here is Gabriel Gomez coming out of the final turn. Gomez currently in 16th behind teammate Federi. So at the moment, Federi will be in the car on day 4 and not Gabriel Gomez because, of course, we'll be seeing Bensfeldinger in the Alfa Romeo tomorrow. As here is Amelia Wilson, who's going back into the pits, and that's her session done with. That's her final run of testing done with, because of course she'll not be there on day 4, as Maxim Tipkov will be in her place tomorrow. But we will of course see her in Melbourne, as she will be making a debut in the top class. Franco Lopez crosses the line, does not improve, remains in 5th, as his teammate Amar Carr starts his final flying lap. George Roque heading down the pit straight in the racing point. Across the line he will now go. Across the line he goes and does not improve. Franco Gamba done for the day, and it looks like he might be the man topping the timing sheets, but we will wait and see. As Gal does not improve, remains in 3rd. Joseph Willows crosses the line and improves, but remains in 8th position. Still 3 tenths away from Jake Galloway, or just under 3 tenths I should say. Maybe Willows is the last person to cross the line, I'm not sure. I don't think he will be, actually, looking at where Byrne is on the track, but I could be wrong. Coming out the second to last corner then comes Evan Byrne, as he makes his way down the hill towards the final corner. And now heading his way into the final corner and now onto the pit straight. And I think Byrne will just have enough time to do one more lap unless he gets the pit indicator on his death panel at the top. Byrne across the line he will go. It looks like it won't be an improvement, and it looks like, judging from this, that Galloway is going to be the one in the car for day 4 rather than Evan Byrne, and Byrne did not improve there. Martinez crosses the line, does not improve, and just does enough to do one more lap. So Martinez was the last one to cross the line there. Felix Sontag crosses the line, does not improve, which means that Jamie Griffiths will be in the car on day 4. Here comes Gabriel Gomez, his last chance to try and get into the car on day 4 alongside Bensfeldinger. Heading down the pit straight then comes Gabriel Gomez, and across the line will come the 2017 DTM champion. Gomez across the line does not improve, which means Federi will be in the car on day 4. Kipot across the line does not improve. Here comes Franco Lopez, he's coming back into the pitch, which means that Amar Carr will be in the Mercedes on day 4. Franco Lopez will be getting a day's rest. His car gets last little bit of slipstream from the Alfa Romeo there, and does not improve. And it looked like he was up on his personal best, maybe even up on Franco Gamba before he got held up there. I couldn't quite tell what it said on the top left there, but it's definitely cost Carr some time, that's for sure. But he will be in the car on day 4. Roque doesn't improve. Mikol Skau across the line does not improve, remains in 3rd. Here comes Joseph Willows across the line, no improvement, remains in 8th position, and he will be in the car on day 4 because De Rosa is in the pit. So it will be Willows and Sinanome in the McLaren for tomorrow. As Byrne coming around the second to last corner, the penultimate car to finish the lap. Behind him will be Rosetta Martinez, as he was the last car to cross the line. This is Byrne's last chance to try and get into the car on day 4, and it doesn't look like it is going to happen. It looks like Jake Galloway will be in the Renault tomorrow as it stands around the final turn. And onto the pit straight we go. Mottram will be in the racing point on day 4 instead of Roque, so he and Campana will be partnering in tomorrow's day 4, the final day of testing. As Byrne now then crosses the line, does not improve, which means Jake Galloway will be in the car tomorrow. Rosetta Martinez coming across the line, he's already going to be in the car on day 4, but he crosses the line and does not improve, and that is that really. Sontag didn't do a lap, and he wasn't going to improve anyway, but there you have it then. So the top 3 were Franco Gamba, Roland Mottram, surprisingly enough, and Miklos Gal. So I guess you're very happy with that one, Franco.
I am surprised, to be honest, because I thought that the Red Bull wasn't going to be very fast in this track, but it actually was. Last season, Red Bull struggled in tests, so seeing that Red Bull is that strong here is a good improvement compared to last season. So,
indeed, and that makes it 3 different drivers who have topped a session in this testing session. Will we get a 4th tomorrow? We'll have to wait and see. But that has been it then from day 3 of pre-season testing. I don't think I will be commentating tomorrow, but if anybody is not able to do it tomorrow, like Mirren couldn't today, then I'll be happy to do so. But we'll wait and see, of course. We'll wait and see, of course, who will be the commentators for day 4. But until then, I've been JW97, he's been Franco Gamba, and we will see you tomorrow at the same time of 4:30 PM GMT for the final day of pre-season testing, where the test drivers, of course, will be in action and the final pre-season test before the start of the new season. Until then, take care.
Arrivederci.